Good morning, everybody. This is the lesson this week. It's the snow globe, and I'm going to turn the camera down and get started in just a second. I'm using a variety of things on this. I'm going to use a loose sheet of paper to paint on for the demo, but I've been enjoying this journal quite a bit. It's, I'm going to show you the brand name. It's not the greatest paper, but it'll do. It's called, oh, let me turn this around. So here's what it looks like. It's called, you could take a screenshot of this if you'd like. So it is a watercolor journal. I like the way it's bound, and Cachet by De La Rowney. Okay, I don't know the weight of the paper, but it's nice and heavy. And I've been using it this week and really enjoying it. The problem with it is if I paint the demo in this, then you can't see this sample painting. So I need to paint on something else. So I love these boards. I got these at Michael's. They're like birch painting panels. They don't have them at every Michael's. They have them at the big Michael's. Did you know that there are some larger Michael's? Some, oh, I got green smoothie on the corner of my mouth. Excuse me, sorry. Some Michael's are larger than others. So sorry. Oh, goodness me. It's just green. It's just healthy vegetables. Anyway, so painting panel. And I'm going to use, let's see, here's what you could use. You could use mixed media paper. This is going to be a smooth finish. It's like a vellum surface. It's nice and smooth. And we're going to be using markers, so you want a smooth paper. It's going to be, I think it's actually nicer than working on watercolor paper. It's kind of got the same weight as watercolor paper, but it's smoother, so you don't get the weird texture. So this is 15 sheets, 9 by 12. We could turn it sideways, I think. You could actually, yeah, you could do 2 on here. I don't know if you want to plan out what size you're doing yours. I'm probably just going to fill the whole 9 by 12 so you can see it. So let me take a sheet out of here. So I removed a sheet, and I'm going to tape this down onto my birch panel board. Now, if you've got smooth, or AKA hot press watercolor paper, I got this from Hobby Lobby, believe it or not. I don't know if they always have this, but it's a nice 140-pound smooth watercolor paper. You could use this too. So those are your choices there. So let me turn the camera down and we'll get started. I'm going to turn this off, turn this on, and there we are. All right, so I only have, oh, did I grab my blue painter's tape? I might have to go run and grab that. I'm so sorry. I meant to grab it I had it upstairs. Don't you hate that? I hate it. I hate it when I don't have everything here. Okay, let me just run upstairs and see if I can find my blue painter's tape. Sorry. All right, I found my blue painter's tape. This is kind of a wide one. You want to use a nice quality painter's tape, and I like to do that to get an idea of if I have it wide enough. Try and make this straight with my board. And I basically just probably want to cover halfway. I don't know. You can kind of see through, and I might reposition it. I'm not worrying about the size of this one. I guess I should. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a little measuring. So let's say we want it to fit in a an 8x10 mat. So I happen to have one. I mean an 11x14 mat, sorry. All right, so here's an 11x14 mat, and the inside, this would be for an 8x10. The inside image is actually 7.5 by 9.5. So let's make sure this is going to fit just right in that 7.5 by 9.5. So, so I want to go a little bit bigger than that. So instead of 9.5, I'll make it, maybe I'll make it 10. And I'm just going to put a really light pencil line there. And then 7.5, I'm going to make it 8 instead. So it's 9 inches. I'm going to just come in 1/2 inch on each side. And then my live area is 8 inches, which is going to be perfect for that mat. Okay. So I want to make sure this isn't crooked. I'm actually going to put a line here. All right, so now I know this will work with a mat. So I'm going to come into this line that I painted by just a smidge. It's just a little bit easier if you do draw a line on there. I've done that where I thought I had it straight and it's crooked and it messes up the whole thing about fitting it in a mat. It's not fun when that happens. You could put the tape down right on the line too if you want. Okay, so I'm going around, make sure that's taped down nice. And now we're all ready to go. And like I said, this is what we're doing today. So I wanted it to really fill the area. I'm going to start off with my circle, and I'm going to find something that's about that size, which might take me a minute or two to find around the studio here. It might be, it almost looks like the size of a bowl, so I might have to run upstairs again. Oh, I have bowls down here. Hold on. It'll be interesting if this is the right size, but it sure seems like it might be. Yeah. That's not bad. I think that's going to work. So I'm going to make sure it's centered, and I'm going to trace around it with pencil. And, you know, a lot of times we worry about pencil lines showing through. You don't have to worry about that with this whole technique. We're going to wind up, actually, I'm going to put this back down. We're going to wind up using marker, Sharpie marker. So, I'm going to get it back close to where I had it. Oh my goodness, this isn't perfectly round, which makes sense because this was from Dollar Tree, so I'm really not all that surprised. I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to take a big, juicy Sharpie out, not a fine one. We are going to use a fine tip Sharpie black, and we're going to use this tip, the bullet nib. They call it fine point, but it's a bullet nib. So I'm going to go all the way around with this. And in some spots, I'm going to make it just a little bit thicker, like maybe on this side a little thicker, and over here on this side a little thicker by angling it just a bit. Maybe even here a third place. You'll see what I mean in a second. So I don't know if you can tell. I made it just a little bit thicker in a couple spots to make it interesting. And done with that now. Okay, so we're gonna draw the base that this sits on. Let me just make more room here. Okay, so we're gonna draw our base. And you know, you want to kind of imagine that it's a bit of an ellipse. I may not be able to do the 2-tier one like I did here, but that's totally okay. We can just do one. So I want to kind of, well, maybe I could do 2. I want to kind of come at it like this. It's kind of a gentler arc. I'm going to use, you know, just light pencil. And then this is going to come up like this, kind of go behind there, right? So then wherever this touches the glass, you want to make sure you go straight across and hit it on this side of the glass, and that would be the point at which you draw this side. So let's just use, I got a triangle here. Let's just use a triangle, and when we do it, we're going to make sure we're level. So I got this tick mark here. I'm going to do a little tick mark right here. That's my little cheat, so that's where this comes out of. And, you know, yeah, they nicknamed me Anal Aggie in beauty school, but, you know, this is an important thing. If this is off, it's just going to look really strange. The other thing you could do is kind of trace it. It's very hard to get the arc to be similar. Like, I don't think I've got it. You could trace it on a piece of tracing paper and then flip it, you know, to get it exactly right on this side. So same thing with this. Wherever this one ends, like I'm going to maybe make it do this instead. And I'm going to use an eraser that won't cause me problems later. So I've got a kneaded eraser and a white pearl. Let's see if this... And it's a good idea to have a couple of different types of erasers around. But this is working just fine, the kneaded eraser. To get a clean area on your kneaded eraser, you just pull it apart like this, and you get a clean one. After you've been using it a really long time, this whole thing gets full of lead, then it's time to buy a new one. So let's bring this back this way, right? And then wherever this corner is, I'm going to draw a line, because that's where it'll be on the other side. So it's right about here. And I think I want to just straighten this out a little bit. So let's see if I can get a similar curve. I'm going to try and just keep my pencil lines nice and light. Another thing you can do to make sure you're drawing pretty accurately is just take any piece of paper that you got laying around, and I'm gonna draw a line from here to here, little ticks on this. and I could basically find my center, put a tick here, and then I know for sure that's where I need to make it at least that thick. I could also put it here. I mean, conceivably, you could just do tick, 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 and then you'll have the whole line drawn. But this is a little guide for me to make sure that I have the same thickness all the way through, if that makes sense. It's a little too heavy because I was off already. Connect this one now. And sometimes it's easier for me to turn sideways. Again, if I'm not sure, I can always go back and get my little tick cheaters. Put that in there. I was starting to get a little thin there, so I'm glad I did that. So I'm using the natural arc of my wrist to help me with that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then I want to do another, I want to do another tier like that. So it's going to come out again. And maybe this one isn't going to be quite as tall. Okay, so same thing, decide where I'm going to make my corner. This is probably as good a place as any. And maybe do a rough just a rough thing here. That looks pretty good. Let's see what this one, I'm going to do is different side of the card for these tick marks. You know, make sure you've got it at a 90-degree angle when you do the tick mark thing. And there you can see I was off already. So bring that down. Here's this one. Let's draw this line that goes straight across from this corner. Let's make sure it's the right thickness. Oh, that's not really the right thickness right here. So we need to fix that. This needs to be down just a little bit lower. So that would have been kind of way off. Okay, better. Oops. Okay. Let me erase these other lines that weren't quite right. So I'll show you a little bit closer what I'm doing. Hopefully you can see the tick mark, you know, a tick mark here, and I'm just going to connect those now. Turn it sideways, just easier for me. And anytime you're not sure, use that tick mark cheat to give yourself an additional tick mark if you need to. That'll be our little secret. Okay, so that looks pretty good, I think. And I'm going to erase this line and going to kind of solidify it just a little bit more before I do it in marker. And I like having lines that overlap each other when I'm in this stage of creating. It just allows that some of it is going to be right on the mark and some of it isn't, and that's okay. All right, so now I'm ready to do the marker. So I'm going to be bold and I'm going to go, hi Christine, I'm going to go ahead and grab my Sharpie bullet nib fine point. Actually, this one's a little stubby. I have a whole box of these. Let me go grab a better one. To be honest, I like, oh, here, it's over here. I like to use a couple of these at a time because you know how Sharpie markers are. They kind of get a little bit dry as you are working with them. So I'm gonna, again, I'm gonna turn it sideways because it's more comfortable for my, it's more natural for my wrist to do this, you know? And, well, you know what? First I'll do the vertical parts. So I'm just gonna start right here. I go from that curve to that curve. Don't think about it too much. I'm gonna do this one. Start with the hard curve, the corner curve. Okay. And now I'm ready to do this big arc. And again, you know, well, not again, I didn't say this before, but make sure that you are very comfortable. My arm is laying down on this board and I am not contorting my body in any way. I'm very comfortable and I can be confident that way. That's really the key to so much. I'm holding this really firm and you know, it's okay. Even if you waver a little bit, don't worry, it is going to be dark there. So there we go. That looks pretty good. All right. Yay, we got that down. So now I can erase the excess lines, you know, make sure that Sharpie's good and dry. Believe it or not, sometimes Sharpie can kind of stay a little wet for a few minutes. And so I'm erasing the pencil lines that I started with. Getting a clean part of my eraser. Okay. And now we're going to start sketching in you know, our red cottage. Actually, it's a barn, I guess you could say. It's really a barn. All right, so again, I'm just gonna use a regular #2 pencil. And the first thing I wanna do is kind of figure out where my snowy base is, right? So I'm just gonna draw like, I'm gonna picture where the barn is, first of all. Maybe let's do that. Like roughly where this barn is gonna be. It's meaning I don't want it to be too small, you know? So I'm just gonna kind of really roughly put the shape of that in there. It's very rough, right? And I can always move that. This is the sketching part, you know, we're just figuring this out. I want to have nice tall trees. I've got 3 trees along the top of the roof. So maybe one would be like this. One would be like this. It's not pointing to the exact center of the globe either, by the way. Here's another one. And then this one kind of comes around from the back edge of the house or barn or whatever it is. And then there's another little one here, right? Okay. Then there's one here. And a shorter one here. Something like that. You know, and do it so that it fits in, you know, to your liking. But maybe picture it like 1/3 is the foreground's driveway snow, 1/3. So put a line right about here. And then the middle third is, approximately the middle third is the barn structure itself. And then 1/3 is the sky. Maybe it's a little less, the barn right there. Okay. So then I'm going to put my hill kind of slopes, and that just helps bring attention to the barn. So I'm going to put a little bit of an angle here, right? And then I'm going to have a fence here, kind of centered. Just sketch it in. Don't think about it too hard. Okay, I moved that up a little bit more so I'd have more room there. Okay, so now here's my vertical line for the side of the barn. And there's a line almost the middle of this rectangle that you made. Make another vertical line, you know, halfway over. And I'm going to draw a line basically like this across the whole thing. And then from this, I can find this peak of this roof, the center point here, bring this up, and that's where you make your triangle. That's how you connect your triangle, okay? Hey, Tammy, how are you? Okay, then this peak slopes down ever so slightly. And here's the back peak of the house. This roof overhangs this just a bit, because we're going to make it look like there's just a ton of snow on here. We're going to round this off. Same thing on this side. It's going to come overhang quite a bit. So it's like we're going to draw the snow on top of it now, if that makes sense. Does that kind of make sense? So maybe you want to screenshot that. That inside line is going to disappear. So let me erase that. I'm going to erase this line. And this line. And I don't need this anymore either. Okay. And this way, this looks like a thick pile of snow, you know, on top of this roof. I might even round this out a little bit, because that's what snow does. It kind of does this cool melty thing. And I'm going to round this corner a little bit too. And this is nice and round. The peak of the roof, this is nice and round. This slopes ever so slightly downward. This can be ever so slightly rounded. Just gives it more of that little cutesy, cottagey country vibe. All these little nuances. And now an important little detail-y thing. Okay, so I'm going to draw this line again. This goes like this. The land is going to come from behind the edge of the barn. See that? That's a very important little thing. The land goes behind that corner. Same thing on the other side. You know, when you're first roughing it in, it's okay, but when you go to draw the line in with marker, like we're going to do in a minute, I'm going to make this hill slope downward a little bit more. And I'm gonna have some of this land kind of go behind there, if that makes sense. So I just added that. And okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm gonna put the barn door. So I know my center is right here. I'm gonna put that back in. My center of the front of the barn. So I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna draw a small window up here. And the barn door is gonna be about like this, I guess. Are they usually pretty square? I don't know, I guess it depends. I kind of want it to be square so that I can then make it into an X. And don't worry, we are going to be using like a white paint pen to quickly put that in. So if you don't have white paint pens, I recommend you just go get at least a white one, like a white Sharpie. I got these on Amazon. These are called, here's, I don't know, Azores, marks on anything, acrylic paint marker. Or you can get them, you can get them at Hobby Lobby. You can get the Sharpie, even the oil if you want. Here's an oil-based one. I like the acrylic paint though, to be honest. If you just don't want to run out and grab that, you can use a liner brush and white paint, maybe even gesso. But I'm telling you, you're going to have a lot more fun with this if you use a white paint marker. And I'm going to be doing a lot more art journaling using these tools anyway, so I probably need to compile a art journal toolkit or something. Okay, so then there's going to be a big shadow right here. I'm actually going to draw the cast shadow from that, and then the windows can go in. So they're just two cute little square windows. Cute, cute, cute. Put the plus signs in the middle. That's what I call them. And okay, now hopefully you can see all this. I might even move, I'm going to move the split rail fence up a little bit more now that I have a better idea of what's going on. Just to give it more of a foreground feel. It kind of invites you in a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to put this post right about here, and it's crooked on purpose, and it's not too tall. I'm going to try and go straight across from it and do another one at the same height. Okay, so they're parallel to each other. And then it's going to kind of slope off just slightly downwards, so like that. And this one too. Like that, maybe. And I'm putting a little perspective on it. This one we see more of. So, okay, then I'm going to do another vertical post very close to that other one, but it's just slightly lower, and it's going to be ever so slightly larger. And then another one about the same space, but maybe a little wider. It's a little taller and a little more vertical. And then maybe there's one right on the edge here. Okay. So you can kind of see the perspective. Okay, same thing. It helps me to do the vertical posts first for some reason. So this one's kind of close. It's still a little crooked. Then I'm going to space it out quite a bit more. Make it a little taller. Then this one gets spaced even further. And we're not going to see the last one. Okay, so something like that. And then the actual rails themselves, I'm just going to draw the bottom of that one and the top of the bottom one, if that makes sense. So there's space in between there. And it's okay if these are crooked. As a matter of fact, it's more charming if they do look kind of crooked. Okay, so there we go. That's that. And believe it or not, we're ready to get our Sharpie marker out and start putting, start drawing all that in now. So just get it to where you really like it. And now if you want, you can use the ultrafine Sharpie. Maybe I'll start with my ultrafine Sharpie just for the heck of it. So maybe I'll come in a little bit closer so that you can see this a little bit better. I'm going to try and get myself so that I'm not going to be blocking it with my hand. Oops, sorry. It's really hard to tell if you can see it, and it's in a weird shadow. All right, that looks better. Okay. All right. So let me get this over here where I can see it. This is not working for me. Can't see real well. Wow, weird. Okay. I guess that's okay. All right, so here's my reference. And I'm going to start with the barn. I'm going to start with this line. Probably don't need to hear me talk. So I'm just going to outline all this stuff. I'm not going to outline along the bottom of the snow, I don't think. I'm going to outline this edge of the cottage. I think I'm going to, I keep calling it a cottage. I don't know what it is. So don't worry about where this line falls because we're going to paint white over it. It's going to be a black square at first. Don't need a line there, but I think I want a line here. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to put these posts in now. And these posts are going to be so cute when we have snow on top of them later. Okay, I need to tilt it this way to do these lines. So I do each section of the split rail fence separately, just to make it hopefully look a little bit more like a split rail fence. Sometimes they're kind of crooked. Okay, turn it again to do this side. Again, that's how I work. I like making sure I'm really comfortable Oh, that might be a really fat rail right there. Okay, I think that's pretty good. All right. Good, 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 good. So the other thing I could do, since these are pine trees, I'm gonna try and just make this a more normal angle with my camera because this is just bothering me. Sorry. There we go, okay. I like to have it so I can actually look into my phone and see what's going on. Okay. So now, I think what I want to do is, this is a little too fine for what I want to do. So I'm gonna go pick one of these, and I'm gonna actually put like the center spine of my evergreen trees. They're kind of perfectly spaced, aren't they? That's okay. All right, I know that looks odd, but don't worry. That's like our center spindles of our evergreen trees. So now we're ready to start painting. All right, so I've got my palette, my watercolor palette here, and really you just need the primaries. If you have greens, it's like a sap green would work really well. I'm gonna spray mist this with my water bottle because I sprayed it before, but it dried off. So that makes these paints nice and juicy and ready to flow into my brush. And I've got myself, actually I don't, need to get myself a little water. Sorry, I just realized I left the Mod Podge brush I hadn't washed out. Let me just stick it in some hot water. Oh, it's always something. Okay, so I've got myself a little jar of water. And we can start painting. And I'm just going to use really one brush for this whole thing. This is a Grumbacher Golden Edge 4620 round. So it's like a number 8. And I need to get myself a couple paper towels or a towel. Sometimes it's nice to have Kleenex nearby also. You don't have to do this in watercolor. You can do it in acrylic or gouache or anything like that if you'd like. Oh, that's my trusty chair making weird noises. All right, so I think I'm going to start with the sky, and I'm just going to use, I have like a manganese blue. So you could use, use your cool blue. Your warm blue would be ultramarine. So not that one, the other one. And I'm going to start over here on this side. I didn't pre-wet it or anything. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of get this whole sky filled in. Since it's a simple shape, I'm not worried about having a line with my watercolor because I know I'm gonna be able to get it all filled in. If you're nervous about having a line, just go back and wet and keep this wet. Keep this arc wet like this. Basically want it to be a lighter blue in the center of the orb. Went back and got a more concentrated mix of this manganese blue, or like I say, you could use your phthalo, like a phthalo blue, or you know, any cool blue. I suppose you could even use ultramarine blue if you wanted to. So it's a very light, that's a very light layer. I want it to be a little darker, so let me grab some darker blue. And the reason why I want this darker is I want to have this snow show really nicely. I want that snow to really pop later on. So I might have to do several layers of this to get it just the way I want it. Sorry, I'm going to have to turn this to maneuver all of this. I'm not really worrying about where the trees are. They're going to overlap all of this. So that's good. I'm letting the watercolor do its thing. The only thing I kind of care about is I don't want to bring the blue over into the snow, really. Well, actually, I do have a bluish gray down here. We could even put that down there, but I see some pencil lines I want to erase first, so let me do that. Just get those pencil lines really a little bit lighter because they will show once you paint on them. Okay. Good, good, good. So now I'm letting that dry a little bit. I'm going to go do the same thing. I'm going to do this same kind of watery wash down here at the bottom, only this time I'm going to pre-mix a color that's just a little bit gray. So I'm going to use my black. I've got a very pale gray mixed out of black and maybe this blue that I used before. I'm not sure which blue it is, but it's a kind of a dull blue. Mix that up with some of the black and put this in down here. And I'm going to turn it upside down. It actually works better for me to have the point of my brush where I need it to be real accurate. So I'm pointing outward. And I'm immediately going back over that line I just painted. This wants to dry real quick on me, I'm noticing. Maybe it's kind of dry in here. So I need to work quickly to get back in here and soften and wet this edge I just created. So again, it's this arc, just painting in an arc. And also again, use the body position that is most comfortable to you. Blotting my brush a little bit. And again, it's most comfortable for me to use the curve of my wrist in a natural way. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and maybe I could probably add a little bit more gray right now. This is almost drying already, really, but let's see if I can get away with adding just a little bit more down here because I want to have some really nice white highlight. No, it's dry already, but that's okay. Since it's dry, I can blend the whole thing again. And this is going to help reinforce that this is a round ball. Getting this shading in there like that. So I'm going to rinse my brush out, dry it off, and I'm going to soften the edge without spreading it all the way out like I did last time. So it's like a short softening. Now later on, I'm going to do these ruts in the driveway that kind of point to the barn door. But for now, I'm working on, oh yeah, Payne's Gray would work too. For now, I'm just working on the orb shape. Okay. Let's let that part dry and let's get some fun red going on in here. I think the reason this works is because I've got a really strong contrast between the two sides of the structure. So it's red, and then it's red mixed with black. And then I also went in and added a red orange on top to make this really lighter. But we're gonna start with just red. Okay, so let's go to our palette. These two are the same. I know they don't look it, but I'm just gonna paint straight up red at first. Nice and strong. Nice strong mixture. It's not a watery mix. Using the point of my brush to help me be a little bit precise about where this is going. So right about here, I need to straighten this out. And then down here. Reload. Wow, can you hear that airplane? Incoming. Actually, I can paint over this line. I don't know why I was being so careful. So this is important, defining the edge of that roof. And what I want to do while that's wet, I'm going to try and keep that pumped full of wet color. So I reloaded my brush and I'm just kind of pushing more wetness into that area because I want to keep it wet so that I can add a dark, the shadow into that. So I want to have it just the right amount of wetness, which that kind of, that's a hard thing to explain. It's almost like you start to recognize what the sheen looks like the more you paint. So like right now, there's different sheen going on. Like right here, it's dry and here it's wet. But, all right, I think, and sometimes you can get subtle little lines going by messing with it while it is wet. And get some subtleties going on in there. Oops. Okay, so now, I think now is a pretty good time to do that. So I'm gonna go mix up some black. I'm gonna, maybe I'll do it over here. I'm gonna grab that red, grab the lighter color first, red, and then I'm gonna grab some black. Okay. And I'm gonna drop that in on this side. I'm kind of judging. Is it dark enough? Do I like it? That sort of thing. If you drop it in and it looks too light or way off, just go mix yourself a darker version real quick. I could be just a little bit darker, I think, actually. And, I don't have to work too hard. It's so wet and it's a big puddle that it's going to spread for me. It's going to paint itself, really, A painting that paints itself. Isn't that nice? All right, let's pull this shadow across here. This might be just a little too wet, but it's okay. And then I'm going to blot my brush, and it's very, very wet. I'm going to be ready. I'm looking for just the right moment to drop in a little more darkness at, right here and here, and maybe even across here. I just want it just a little darker, because watercolor always dries lighter than you think. So I'm making a somewhat thicker mixture of black now. And let's see if we can do it now. I'm just going to drop it in up here. It's still pretty wet. And, you know, I kind of like this. I'm just sort of playing and tweaking this a little bit just to get a little bit of interesting texture back there. So that looks pretty good. So now, since I've got the black on my brush, I'm going to make it even thicker. And I'm going to go ahead and paint this barn door. Probably going to have to do 2 layers. Ideally, you don't really want to hit your red puddle of paint, but if you do, it's okay. It's not going to really kill anybody. And remember, you can always clean stuff up with markers later. All right, again, I've got black on my brush. I'm going to go ahead and put it back here since I've got my brush loaded. I'm just going to kind of put it back here. And this is going to give that sense of this is way in the background. And I'm doing like horizontal pokey strokes. Just up to maybe the roof. Horizontal pokey strokes. That sounds really good, doesn't it? Same thing on the other side. I'm going to turn it upside down again. I like to have my brush pointing where I need the accuracy. I don't want to paint into the barn, so I'm going to point my brush tip at the barn so I have more control. Just want it dark right there so that this tucks behind. Really make that snowy part pop. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of that up here. Again, since I've got it on my brush. These are just kind of horizontal pokey strokes. I don't know what else to call them. Don't go too crazy with this because we're going to be adding, you know, green. Just think of this as the shadow parts of a tree. A couple more. And I'm going to be using some acrylic paint pens, and they do give me a little bit of opacity. Like if I get too dark, I can come back in with my green acrylic paint and lighten it back up again. So this really, it's going to work because of what I'm using. So I know I said you could, you know, do this in any medium, but we are going to want to layer back in, you know, depending on what you do, you might need to layer back in some lighter greens. That's all I'm saying, if that makes sense. And, you know, if you want to practice doing these kind of brush strokes, you know, just practice on another piece of paper. These are really fun to do, these trees like this. It's just, you know, horizontal pokey strokes. I don't know how else to describe them. This isn't the exact style that I did on my sample, but that's okay. So now that this has dried where I started, I'm going to lay in another layer of even thicker black to really darken that. And it also helps hide my Sharpie tree spine. Okay. Same thing here and there. I'm going to go a little bit thicker to make it even darker. And I can probably make this just a little bit darker up here now. All right. Okay, so I'm finally going to wash my brush out. And I have to wait to do the greens. So, this is dry. We could come in here and do those little ruts. But I think I'm going to give all this a better chance to dry on the snow globe part, and I'm going to start on the base. And this is similar colors to what we used up there. You could use your Payne's gray if you have it. I just don't happen to have that on my palette. So I just used a couple different shades of blue, which I happen to have on my palette. Just mix up some blues for yourself. Mix yourself up a puddle of black or Payne's gray so that you can kind of grab that on the fly. I'm almost out of this black on this palette. So let me show you the reference again. We're going to want to really have this shadow here, and that's going to be a few layers, but I'm going to start with that. I'm going to try and make a fairly thick mixture of black. Okay, it comes around, right around here, there's a highlight. Trying to picture where that is. Redefining this just a little bit more. Okay, and then this is going to kind of swoop down this way. Same thing on this side. Okay. And so now I'm going to make a blue mixture in here. I had black in my brush. I'm just putting this here. And I wish I had ultramarine blue. This might be ultramarine blue. I kind of think it's like a royal blue or no, it's not peacock. I don't know what this is, but it is nice. So, okay, we're going to put this in here now. And it's okay if it blends in with what I've got there. And so I'm going to do a big area now, and I'm going to come back in and put my highlight back in. So I got to work kind of quickly on this section. And keep your brush strokes going with this shape. Don't go into this black too much. You're going to cause yourself problems. So that looks pretty good. I didn't stroke into that too much. But what I'm going to do is rinse my brush out and dry it off. And so that's a thirsty brush. I'm creating a thirsty brush. And I'm just going to wipe where I want the highlight to be. Highlight here and there. And again, I can always come back and do another layer of this, or I can add the highlight in with the marker later. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's a good base layer. You can't do it all in one layer. If you try doing too much on one layer, you're just gonna remove it. You're gonna remove all the spontaneity of it. Okay, so I mixed up more of that blue with a little bit of black mixed into it. And I'm going to do the same thing, starting on this side. I don't know if I started on this side last time. Get this all in here. You do have to make sure you have enough paint. We'll say that. Okay. And then with a thirsty brush, rinse, wipe off my brush. Just put that in where you want that highlight. Actually, that curve was off a little bit. But, you know, it's pretty forgiving. Could even come back in here and do a second pass over here, maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, kind of. Okay, and I'm gonna let that dry now, and I can come back in and do another layer in a little bit. All right, so this is still drying right there. The trees are still a little bit wet, but I think I can do more on my globe up here. I want to get it just a little darker. Remember, that was just my first layer. I really want this contrast. I really want to see that dark edge. So I'm going to use this really dark, this blackish blue. God, I really might have to go get myself some more black paint. Blackish blue. Okay, I think I got it. And I don't want to come in too much with it, but you know, and maybe I don't even blend this out too much. Push my brush down a little bit more to make this a little thicker on this side, maybe. Maybe I want to do that just a little bit down here too. I mean, it doesn't have to, it kind of looks cool when you cause some of these little distortions to happen. And that's really going to help when you, at the end, when you go to put in your snow. And this is a thick glass, so there would be thick lines like this, believe it or not. So I kind of like that. All right. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to come back in later and do, you know, even more blue. But, okay, so for now, let's see. Let's do these ruts in the driveway. So basically, I kind of painted a wash and then pulled some streaks pointing to the center of that X of the door. Just imagine there's a dot right in the middle of the barn door, and all of your lines of the driveway are going to point to that. So I can use this same, you know, this same bluish gray, only a much lighter version. So I'm going to add a bunch of water to this. Wipe my brush out so it's not too loaded. And I'm just going to put some of these lines in here now. Add a little bit of water, because as we get further away, they should be a little lighter. So I'm going to darken it in the foreground just a little bit and pull into some of these ruts to emphasize the whole thing. And then I might need to just kind of soften it, and I might not, I don't know. I did these a little bit darker than the first time. Yeah, it's kind of dark, darker than I thought, so I can soften with a clean brush. I can go back here, soften this. This would be a good point to use like a tissue, which of course I don't have a Kleenex tissue. So I'm just gonna blot it with my paper towel. I wet it first, and then I blot it. Anytime you need to soften, wet it. I don't know that I even want to blot that. That might be too soft if I do that. But yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to add a little bit of a prettier color to it now. Maybe some of my manganese blue, and it's still just a little bit wet, so just to make it a little prettier, because that was so gray. My husband's home today. Softening it. Trying not to mess with it too much. I'm going to put some of this blue back here. So the nice thing about that being in Sharpie is that I don't have to worry about blurring all that. Soften this hill back here a little bit. And this is just a very light wash of manganese blue. Again, if I want to keep it nice and light right there where the hill comes to a, kind of gives that feeling that that's higher up. Softening this back, blot it to push it, to remove some of the pigment, but that looks pretty good, I think. And what's nice about that is when I put the white snow dots, that's going to show. Oh, sure, Denise, I didn't even know you were here. You're on vacay, girl. All right, now this very same really pale color, the really, really pale blue, I'm going to go ahead and put on my roof. I'm going to put that up here, and I'm going to be ready to blot this. Oh, my red kind of bled into that, but that's okay. So, cleaned off my brush, soften this edge, keep it nice and white. Right here, I'm going to make this a little bit, yeah. I'm going to use just a little bit of gray here, just a titch, tiny bit of gray. Clean your brush off, dry it off. Now you can kind of manage this puddle of paint. Basically managing how wet it is. Okay, that looks pretty good, I think. And okay, now I think we're ready for some green in our trees. So I'm going to use, I think this is my sap green. And you need a nice yellow. I have a darker green here. I'm not sure what this one is. Like hunter green or something. This one's kind of cold and flat. This one is nicer. Trying to get it a little more concentrated. But I want to keep it warm, and I want it to relate to the cottage. So you could add yellows and oranges to this even, you know. What if I were to use some of this orange? Get some orange over here on this side. So I've got a super warm green going on here, just in case I need it, okay? So, and then the other thing too is that you can mix some of your yellow. So I'm gonna start with just a nice yellow. This is very watery though. Pick up some sap green and just start laying this in here. Unfortunately, I did not erase my lines of my Christmas tree. The main thing is I don't want to paint into the roof of the snow. Hopefully I won't do that. Maybe I'll grab the other green here and there. So now I'm going to form this shape of the edge of the roof. So I'm using this cool green back here. I don't know, I guess I'm using a cooler dark green at the bottom of the trees. And I don't mind if I kind of blend in with some of that black that I laid down there before. Now I'm going to get my sap green. This is way too watery. Let me turn it upside down to get this edge of the, oh, my brush is way too loaded. That's the other thing. Sometimes you need to, you need to have a palette so that you can wipe off your brush. So I need to be a little bit accurate here with the edge of the snow. You know, and you want some delicate little brush strokes here and there too, just to create that subliminally pulls our brain in to figure out what it is we're looking at. Grabbing some of that orange. Oh boy, that's kind of dark, but it'll look good with the orange of the cottage, to have some of that here and there. I was working upside down quite a bit there. Hopefully it looks okay. Yeah, it's not bad. I did evenly space my trees, so I'm annoyed at myself for that. Hopefully I can kind of disguise them though. All right, let's fix this line here. Oops. Okay. Yeah, evenly spaced trees. Oh, it's so annoying. But I think when I put the white snow in, it'll help. Okay, so now let's leave the trees alone for a little bit, and let's see what else we can do. We can darken up this black right here because I'm seeing the tree trunk a little too much. So I just want this a little more broken up. Maybe here too. So I'm really trying to camouflage that center Sharpie line. And I'm going to paint this a second coat of this. So I need to paint yellow inside of my windows too. Believe it or not, the bulk of the work is done on this. Okay. Thicken this up a little bit more. like some of the, there's some blooms going on in there that I actually kind of like. So I don't want to mess with this too much. I like how simple that looks. And okay, let's do, yeah, I am really liking this. So let's do the inside the windows with a bright lemon yellow. Of course, you know, make sure that all that's dry around there. You don't want anything, you don't want this to run. Okay, so it's going to be lit up inside of there, and since I've got yellow on my brush, let's see if there's some yellow places I can add. I'm almost kind of pushing this to be a little opaque on purpose to, again, break across that Sharpie center line. And, you know, maybe I can even fake in another tree in between here. That'll help, right? Yeah. I think that kind of camouflages my perfectly centered trees. Okay, that looks a little better, I think. What do you think? A little better? I don't even know if I even have anybody here with me right now. And, you know, we are going to put these, like, snowy branches on there, too. But, okay, so now, I want to get this just a little bit maybe cooler. I'm going to do one more layer of red. I'm going to use this cool purpley color now, mixed with red. To make it just almost a little bit a little bit winey, if you will, a little bit of a wine color. Here's my Charlie sniffing around. Yeah, that looks better. Hey, Charlie Doodle. How you doing, good boy? Yeah, so it's just a little bit, I'm sorry, going the wrong way. I don't know, richer maybe? And it really makes it look like the light is hitting this side a little bit more now. Okay. Kind of ran off the edge there. I don't want that to show quite so much. All right. And then I'm gonna even really push it even further and put orange now. To re-wet my palette a little bit and just put orange so that the paint's thicker and more vibrant. I'm painting this orange now. So I'm really pushing the contrast quite a bit. You know, and I'm using my paint rather thickly for watercolor. You know, it's okay to do that. The watercolor police are not gonna come and get you. Maybe down here, I'm gonna dab my brush off and get just a bit of my original red. Which really looks almost orange. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that. So I'm really emphasizing that contrast from that roof shadow. I'm gonna blot off just some of it and maybe pull a hint of this red through here, just a hint of it. Even just one line is all you need. Of course, I can always add to that with my markers. So maybe just a hint of a dark line on that side too, and that's enough. All right. You know, now you might want to decide, do you need more shadow on here? And I kind of think I do. I think I need a little bit more shadow on my snowy part. Just a bit darker, because since this is so extreme, that should be a little bit more. So let's do that. Let's go just a little darker on here. Okay, rinse your brush off, soften this whole edge now. Yeah, I think that helped. Made it just a titch darker. And since I liked it, I'm gonna do it over here too. And make this rounded. It's kind of a rounded feeling. You know, because like we always say, white is never white. Okay, much better. I like it. And again, that's going to help me with my snow dots, which I'm going to put in pretty soon, softening this just a little bit more. All right, I am loving it. I'm going to thicken up the black lines on the window. I'm going to use my marker to put a few black lines. I'm going to use white marker to put in the X and the outline of that, and it's going to look so much better. I'm going to use my white marker to put snow on top of the split rails and highlights on this, and then we're going to pretty much be done. But before I do that, so now it's time to paint in the background. And you know, I couldn't really decide on a color, so I went with muted neutral colors. Technically, sometimes with a glass orb like this, the background can show through the glass. So you don't want to, I don't know, you don't want to go too different, I guess is what I'm saying. But I do want to put a background on here. So I'm probably just going to keep it similar to what I did last time. I'm going to do kind of a neutrally color, excuse me. So I've got, I've got like a burnt umber, a raw umber, a few different browns, whatever browns you have, maybe get those wet. You might want to use those. Get your black a little bit wet. I hope I don't drip. Or your Payne's gray, getting this all wet again. And what's this? This is my yellow ochre. Yeah, maybe yellow ochre would be a nice. Of course, if I mix that with my blue and my black, I get green, which I didn't really want. Although maybe that's not so bad to have green. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead. Now, this would be where that quill brush would really come in handy to fill in this whole area nice and quickly. So you're going to want to have a pretty good mix of something mixed up, a good puddle of it, because this is a big area. And actually, yeah, I really should use a big brush for this to get this whole thing done quickly. But you know what we'll do? We'll wet it first. We'll just wet it first, okay? So pull up my sleeves here. All right, so let's start on this side. And I'm just gonna wet all of this. And again, the nice thing about that Sharpie marker is I really don't have to worry about coming right up to that line. So I'm basically gonna make a pretty wet puddle out here. This has to stay wet while I do the other side and top. So I'm using more water on this side than I normally would. Again, it's puddle management. That's what watercolor is, managing your puddles. And you know, you need to be able to look at the sheen to see how wet it is and to see if there's parts you missed. So I am working quickly, but I'm being careful to get it only in the background. And I'm looking at the sheen where I painted a moment ago, seeing if there was something, like right here, it's drying already, so I'm gonna bring it back in again. This is all still pretty wet. More water. I do have a lot of water on here. But like I say, it starts drying, so you got to go back in. And so now as long as this is wet, I'm not going to have any weird hard lines. But I'm going to be adding color, and there's going to be spots that are going to dry. So I got to really have a good sized puddle of paint. Got black. I think I want to use this brown and just make it this neutrally color. Okay, so that's a pretty decent sized puddle of paint. And I'm going to start it out here. And just drop this color in. What's nice about this is it's gonna help me show the highlight. I want to show the highlight of this sphere. You know, I want to have a white highlight. Grab, oh, that was a lot of blue. I didn't mean to grab that much blue. I want to start getting a shadow down here. So much thicker paint down here. Just a feeling like my light source, it's casting a shadow this way. Okay, and then maybe you can have a little fun bringing in some other color here and there. This was starting to dry, so I'm glad I caught that corner. want some parts to be lighter. I think I want this to be lighter. So I'm re-wetting it to kind of make that pigment move. And I'm going to hit it. Let's make this bluer right here. Trying to get a horizontal feel in here. And I'm going to hit that with, you know, paper towel right here, just to kind of lift that. And I actually put a little texture in there too, which I really kind of like. Kind of fun and whimsical. It might go away. If it does, that's okay. All right, and then maybe I'll drop in, maybe not. Make this brown come back down into there. Yeah, I think I will. So I'm going to tilt my board this way and just kind of play up this shadow a little bit more. And I could actually just let it dry that way too. But I think that looks pretty good. I think I like that. So I'm gonna leave this tilted, maybe not quite that much. Well, maybe I will. And I'm gonna get my heat gun, rinse my brush out. Oh, my heat gun's right here. Hopefully I won't electrocute myself, knocking over water. So having it tilted that way made the pigment come to the edge of the thing that's casting the shadow, you know, so it makes the shadow just a little darker next to the globe base. And yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so now, yeah, that's good. I think the background's totally done. I'm not even going to do anything else to the background. So this would be the part where we would start using our paint pens a little bit. And I still see my black line from the center of the tree. So I've got this, you know, I've got the, I don't know, what, 24, 18, I don't know, Posca paint pens. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it must have been the 18 set or 16 or something like that. And these greens are really kind of crazy, but I could probably get away with using them a little bit. I just want to break that darn Sharpie line that's bothering me. So with these, you know, you make sure they're started. And this is a really crazy green. But, you know, maybe I'll just do some lines like this here and there. Right? Remember, I'm gonna put you know, the white snowy stuff all over here too. That helped a little bit. We could even put yellow. you know, here and there. Okay. And then let's grab our white. So I got a couple different, now this is a thick white, which I want. I want to have a nice thick white for this crossbar on the barn door. Oops. It's blending. I don't want it to blend. So you can't go back and forth. Okay, it's a little off, but that's okay. And then I'm going to outline, I think I want to outline the black a little bit thicker, and then I'm going to do a thin white outline around all the windows. So let me find my black fine liner. Here it is. All right, so thicker black here. Make sure it's centered. Could even put, you know, some horizontal lines here. I don't think I want to do the lines on the red part. That would be a little too much. And then I'm going to do the, you could even use gray, but I'm going to use the thicker nib Sharpie to kind of put a little bit of a line around my snow, my snow hanging over. Yeah, I like that. Oh, that might have been a little too much, but oh well. Okay, and then okay, so now the white, I'm going to use my thinner white. This is that one Azores that I bought on Amazon. It's just a little bit thinner. So sometimes just that little bit of outline really helps. Now I'm going to put snow. Oops, that's red. Put a little mound of snow on top of my split rail fences. You can't really see it unless it's on a dark area, but go ahead and put it on there anyway. All right. Even put some white, you know, right here. Oh, the pink is bleeding. The red is bleeding, I mean. Oh, that's a mistake. Oh, darn, darn, darn. So it's okay. I'm going to let that dry and come back. All right, so then also with my white, I can start putting in the white on, let me make sure I don't have red on here. So I'm going to start putting in the white on the trees. And it's just kind of really, like, pretend like you're drawing garland. You know, kind of like smiley, curvy lines. It's hard to explain. So on top of the trees, there's going to be maybe a little bit more snow. I don't know if that's making sense. Okay, and then we're ready to put our official highlights on here, and then we're going to do the snow, and the snow is what makes the whole thing. So I'm going to do this white outline outside of here just a little bit. Right, comes down that way just a bit. And then just inside here, in a few spots. So sometimes the line is like outside and inside. I'm going to do a highlight here. Okay. And I think I had just a bit of one right here. Okay, so now we're ready. I just want to put more of a white outline around here for the hell of it. I just like how it looks. Okay, and then now we're ready for the snow. Oh, I guess I could have even done a bit more. So I don't want to bring the snow right to that very edge. And I like a lot of snow. But, you know, it would be over everything. I'm just a little bit more strategic about placing it where I put the snow on the barn. You know, but I will do that. See how the snow is just magical? The snow just makes it. Oh, and I do need to fix this part where I had this red stuff. Let me get that fixed first. Good. I would like to get this whiter. It's a little bit finicky. Okay. Making it snow. You know, and try not to get careless. Like I was just starting to get a little too careless and my dots turn into dashes. You don't want to do that after all this hard work. Paper is kind of bouncing on me. Yeah, you can't really see my snow. Oh, well here, I'm doing a second layer. If you make your hill a little darker, then you'll see this white snow on the split rail fence. Mine's not really showing that great. I wish I'd made that just a little darker. So I'm a little more careful right here on the barn. Just the spacing. Sorry about that. Somebody was trying to call me and I didn't even realize. Yeah, I always forget to turn off my phone. And you know, it's really frustrating because I've given my number to a couple people for the texting when they're live or whatever, and I think they're selling my number. And I hate that. So I'm not doing that anymore. You know, if you got, do you have anybody that's saying sign up for my texts and all that? I did it with Jennifer Allwood. I shouldn't have done it. Oh, makes me mad. Anyway, almost done. And then I'm going to peel the tape off. This is almost like life size of a globe, snow globe, isn't it? Well, no, they're smaller than this, actually. This thing is huge. You know, and have a few pieces of snow right on the post. Now, the other thing you could do is you can spray a sealer on this, and then you can varnish it if you want. There's even something called Dorland wax, which I don't have, so I don't quite know how it works. But that is a type of sealer for watercolors. D-O-R-L-A-N-D, Dorland wax. It's a wax, so it's kind of weird. I mean, it sounds like you can just put it right on here, but again, if you buy that, just make sure you follow the instructions. So that's it. I think that's it. This highlight isn't showing much here either. All right, so let's take this off, this tape off. We're just gonna slowly remove it like that. So I try to, when I remove it, I try to make it fold over on itself. You finally got your ground in today? Oh, okay, cool. What are you going to try it on first, Tammy? You know, I ordered that a while ago and I haven't used it yet. The ground from Golden? That's probably what you're talking about. I haven't used it yet. Ay, ay, ay. Yay. Now on this one, I I outlined it with a gold border, which I really like. Actually, I think it looks cuter, smaller. Oops, sorry, Charlie. I'm not gonna roll over on you. So let's see. I can even go grab my sealer. Like, I can see the sheen of the Sharpie marker on there, which I don't like. So let me do that. Let me take you over to my area where I've been doing this. Oh yeah, I really like it. Well, there's a lot of yellow in there, but that's okay. It's an early snow. How's that? All right, so we're traveling, we're moving, and it's upside down now. Hold on. Forgive me. All right, so really I'm just going to quickly use this UV clear on it. I have another cat. Let me open my door here. And that just makes it look so much better. It evens out the sheen. You know, it really makes it look so much better. So then I'm just gonna let that dry. And that's it, you guys. That stuff stinks. Mine is Daniel Smith ground. Oh, yeah. Let me go grab mine and show you. Hold on. Let me go grab mine. Yeah, that's what I thought we were talking about. Because we were talking about this like a month ago, right? Oh, I got paint on me. Yeah, absorbent ground. I don't know. Yeah, so it's acrylic, may be thinned up to 25% with water to improve leveling. Allow layers to dry completely before each coat. Surface can be protected with medium. Yeah, clean with soap and water. So yeah, I haven't used it yet, but I will. All right, so that's it, you guys. What do you think? Can you kind of see? Oh, they call yours watercolor ground? Yeah, that's the same thing. This is, yeah. I'm trying to see, let me take you out of the mount and see if we can show you how it evened out the sheen. Oh, if I can get it under the light. You can kind of see what it does to the sheen there. So there's still a difference in sheen, you see that? So I would actually, I kind of want to varnish this like I did on the other one, just on the glass part. Oh, this is the other way. It's funny. It's going the wrong way. This is how it really looks. Anyway, that's it, you guys. Pretty easy. I know I went into kind of quite a bit of explanation, but I hope you will do this one. I showed you how to draw it and everything. Let me know if you have any questions at all in the comments below. There's Charlie. Charlie poo-poo. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.